Hey everyone, this is Blackbinder, and welcome back to the Tales of Maj'eyal class overviews and somewhat guides. Today we are going to be going over the Yeek Shadowblade. You can see up here I'm a Yeek. This is definitely not necessarily a power option with the Yeek, but the Shadowblade specifically has a few cool synergies with the Yeek, and we'll go over those later. If you don't like really weak or low defense races, the Yeek is not for you. They have really low starting hit points. Look at this. We've got 88. Pretty much any kind of mage could one-shot us right now with Mana Thrust. But we'll overcome that fairly quickly, and then there are some options for defenses later, but mostly what you're going to be going with the Shadowblade is overwhelming speed and somewhat power, but mostly speed. Alright, let's go over the actual Shadowblade as a class. The Shadowblade's like a rogue with just a little bit of mage thrown in. He has some magic skills, and they're really not, a lot of them aren't super synergistic with the Shadowblade, but a few of them are to the point where it makes them a really unique playthrough when compared with the rogue or the marauder. I do believe the Rogue and the Marauder are going to outpower a Shadowblade, but they won't come anywhere near outspeeding them. So let's start. Let's jump into the stats. For stats on a Shadowblade, you aren't going to really want strength. It already starts out low. We're not going heavy armor, so you're going to have to go with cunning, magic, and dexterity, and you can't do them all at once. You can't like just max dexterity, then max magic, then max cunning. You need to kind of do them all at once. So basically the way I see this is when you've got once you've got dual weapon mastery up to 4, you can stop taking dexterity for a little while and then focus more on your cunning to get up to expose weakness, and then later on shadow feed. And then by level 10, you need to start putting points in magic, because that's when you're going to start getting your actual magic trees, the ones that you're actually going to use anyway. So let's go, where are we going to go from here? Let's actually just jump into the skill trees now that we're here. First technique, dual techniques. Rogues, Marauders, a lot of people get this skill tree. It's pretty good though. You start off with Dual Strike. Attack with your offhand weapon for 109% damage. If the attack hits, the target is stunned for 3 turns, and you hit it with your main hand weapon for 109 damage. Good for stunning. Stun chance increases with your accuracy. This is good, but just take 1 point in the beginning. You can take it higher depending on how long you want the stun to last. Don't take it higher based on the damage, just for how long you want the stun to last. But you probably will either get close to maxing this out endgame, maybe. Shadowblades have a lot of decent places to put their class skills, so you might not end up maxing that out. Flurry. Lashes out with a flurry of blows, hitting your target 3 times with each weapon for 69% damage. This scales very well. It scales basically like not as high a percentage as Dual Strike, but close, and it does that for 3 hits. So the percentage is a decent one. It's like 9-10% damage increase, but then it does that for each 3 hits. So it's actually a 30% increase in damage, whereas with Dual Strike, it's 109 to 125, so about 14 or 16%, and then it'll do it for the second one too if you hit. So this is actually, it seems like it's got crappy scaling, but it's actually really good. And you will max this one out early. This is like when you see a Rand boss, you'll pop all your buffs and then hit it with Flurry, so long as it doesn't have a damage shield. If it has a damage shield and you hit this, you're probably going to die. Heartseeker. Swiftly leap to your target and strike at their vital points with both weapons, dealing 134% weapon damage. This attack deals 12% increased critical strike damage. The increased critical strike damage, it's misleading. The best part about this skill is that you can leap to a target. It says range 3 right now, but it'll actually go up as you put more points into it. The increased critical strike damage doesn't mean this is going to do more damage than Flurry or even Dual Strike. It just means it's going to get it. It's not going to be as bad. You will be critting 100% of the time or close to, so it's always going to take advantage of that. However, when you do the math, it's actually not going to be as much. It's still going to be comparable to like Dual Strike in damage, and it'll be less than Flurry even with the increased critical strike damage. Whirlwind. Same reason you want to use Heartseeker, you want to use Whirlwind. It's got a range 2, which will go up, but you quickly move up to 2 tiles to arrive adjacent to a target location you can see, leaping around or over anyone in your way. During your movement, you attack all foes within 1 grid of your path with both weapons for 84% weapon damage, causing those struck to bleed for 50% of the damage dealt over 5 turns. You're going to want to use this for targets that are running away or little hops, just like Heartseeker. It's just getting you in position to do your bump damage. It does decent damage, and the bleed is fine, but the reason you're using it is because it's a move and attack, so you can take out trash moving towards like a more high priority target. Alright, moving on to combat techniques. Rush, eventually you'll put 3 or 4 points in this, but for now just put 1. Precise strikes, completely ignore it. Hold on, let's go over what rush is first. Rush toward a target with incredible speed. If the spot is reached and occupied, you will perform a free melee attack against the target there. This attack does 120% weapon damage and can daze the target for 3 turns if it hits. You must rush from at least 2 tiles away. So you can't use it against something right next to you, but whatever. This is a really nice spell. Eventually, once you get powerful enough, you can engage with it, but otherwise save it for your escape. With a Shadowblade, you don't have to save it. Like, it's not as important to save it because you'll have other escapes, but I would still save it in the beginning. Precise strikes. You focus your strikes, reducing your attack speed by 10% and increasing your accuracy by 10 and critical chance by 5%. The effects will increase with your dexterity. Alright, it's going to lower your attack speed. That's terrible. And it increases your accuracy and critical chance, which you should have enough anyway. You should already be close to 100% critical chance, and your accuracy needs to be high enough to hitting your targets regardless without precise strikes. So this is useless. It's bad. Perfect strike. You have learned to focus your blows to hit your target, granting plus 46 accuracy and allowing you to attack creatures you cannot see without penalty for the next 2 turns. Alright, this starts off at really crappy duration, 2 turns, but you can actually get it up to 6 turns with 3 or 4 points, so it's actually pretty good. The plus 40 accuracy is okay. It'll let you take more advantage of... Hold on, let me see. Let me get our equipment open. Our inventory. If you see here, you get accuracy bonus plus 0.5% APR for extra accuracy versus their defense, basically. For each point of accuracy that you beat their defense, you're going to get this 0.5% armor penetration. So, even that alone would make this a decent, like, kind of damage boost buff, and it takes 0% of a turn, so it's instant. But the best part is it allows you to attack creatures you cannot see, like Dredge. Dredge Masters are what I'm thinking about specifically. They're very annoying enemies, and they can summon more enemies to attack you, which are also invisible. So, Perfect Strike is good. You want to get 3 points in it early because that 3rd point's going to give you an extra 2-turn duration instead of just 1. Blinding Speed. Through rigorous training, you have learned to focus your actions for a short while, increasing your speed by 17% for 5 turns. You will eventually... max this out. It maxes out at around 55% if I remember right, but it's very good. We are going for speed with our Shadowblade. That's why we went Yeek. That's also one of the big parts of Shadowblade. So this will be used at the beginning of every single fight that you get into that's not just trash. Alright, Dual Weapon Master. You're going to want to get this up to 4 points early. Your offhand weapon damage penalty is reduced to 38%. Up to 2.1 times a turn, you have a 12% chance to parry up to 1 damage based on your offhand weapon damage from a melee or ranged attack. Excuse me. The number of parries increases with your cunning. A fractional parry has a reduced chance to succeed. A successful parry reduces damage like armor before any attack multiplier, so it's better than it seems, and prevents critical strikes, which is awesome. It is difficult to parry attacks from unseen attackers, and you cannot parry with a Mind Star. Alright, it's a lot of stuff in there, but basically it's an easy way to increase your defenses early, and it's also going to increase your offensive abilities because it's lowering the penalty you take with your offhand damage. You don't really have to know the math behind it, it's good. Well, decent to good defensive-wise, but it's also adding offensive, so that upgrades it to a good skill. Take it to 4 early, and then max it out later on. The last point really doesn't give you a lot, but, I mean, it's such a required, in my opinion, skill. You might as well max it out. But yeah, 4 points early. Alright. Tempo. The flow of battle invigorates you, allowing you to press your advantage as the fight progresses. Up to once each per turn. While dual wielding, you may riposte. If a melee or archery attack misses you or you parry it, you instantly restore 1.2 stamina and gain 5% of a turn and recover. On performing a critical strike with your offhand weapon, you instantly restore 1.2 stamina. This is going to make sure that you have stamina to make it through the longer fights or to do everything you want to do. You're going to be spending a lot of stamina up front just buffing yourself, so this will help you regain some of that, or if all of it. Who knows? If you're critting enough or you're parrying enough, it can actually keep you pretty close to above 50% once you've done all of your buffs. All right, feint. Make a cunning feint that tricks your target into swapping places with you. While moving, you take the opportunity to trip them, pinning and dazing them for 2 turns. Switching places distracts your foes and allows you to improve your defenses. For 2 turns, dual weapon mastery yields 1 extra parry at each turn, and you are 18% less likely to miss your parry opportunities. The chance to pin and daze increases with your accuracy. Alright, all of that is irrelevant. It's just nice. Sometimes you get caught in a corner and you need to switch places to someone to get out of there. Again, Shadowblade, they're not as reliant on fate to get out of bad situations, but you want at least 1 point in this just to switch places with a target. It still takes turn to switch places with a target, which kind of sucks, but you need at least 1 point in this, because you're going to get trapped in between 2 targets and you're going to need to switch with them, and you're not going to be able to phase door or rush out of there or anything like that. Phase door might work, but if you're going through a target, it might fizzle, if I remember right. Same with controlled phase door runes. But anyway, onward. Lunge. Exploiting a gap in your target's defenses, you make a lethal strike with your offhand weapon for 263% damage that causes them to drop their weapons, disarming them for 3 turns. Tempo will reduce the cooldown of this talent by 1 turn each time it is triggered defensively. The chance to disarm increases with your accuracy. Alright, now this could be good with maxed dual weapon mastery, but it's still going to be... It's not going to out-damage Flurry. It might out-damage Dual Strike, but... I mean, it's hitting with your offhand weapon, which I hate, but disarming a target, if it's a melee powerhouse, can be good. But the problem is, the chance to disarm increases with your accuracy, so long as it's... The chance is irrelevant, because you have to have the physical power to overcome their physical save, and if you don't have a lot of strength, you're not going to. So... The disarm part of it, I would ignore entirely. 263% damage with your offhand attack, it might be decent. I don't know. But I generally don't even take 1 point in that, because you've got plenty of other things to do, and you don't want to be wasting your stamina on a subpar move. Alright, going on to stealth. Just starting off, you want to ignore this tree entirely. But we'll go over it anyway. That is to say, on normal, this can actually be a decent tree. On Nightmare, not so much. Insane, no way. But we'll go on. Enter Stealth Mode. Power 21 based on Cunning, making you harder to detect. If successful, rechecked each turn, enemies will not know exactly where you are or may not notice you at all. Stealth reduces your light radius to 0 and will not work with heavy or massive armors. You cannot enter stealth if there are foes in sight within range 9. Any non-instant, non-movement action will break stealth if not otherwise specified. Alright, enemies seem to always find out you're in stealth. There used to be an old build before Shadowblades were reworked that could make use of this, and they could basically permanently stay in stealth. It was like a caster build, and they could basically get 100% crit from the beginning with things like Illuminate and Core's Fall, the staff that gives you Bone Spear, but this is just... it's not as good anymore, and it's not reliable because people are going to see you anyway, and the bonuses you get from stealth are irrelevant once you get your build sorted out. Alright, Shadow Strike. You know how to make the most out of being unseen. When striking from stealth, your attacks are automatically critical if the target does not notice you just before you land it. Alright, when you attack, it seems like they get a chance to see you. Like, it'll always say, oh, they noticed you right before you attacked or something. I forget what the combat log says. But even if you're stealth right next to them, that doesn't mean you get an automatic critical. You still have to make the attack without them seeing you, which, staying in stealth the closer you are, is harder and harder. Spell and Mind attacks critically strike even if the target notices you. See, that's the nice part about it. But before, you would stay in stealth all the time, even when using a spell. But now you come out of stealth when you use a spell. So that's why the build's kind of broken now. Broken in a bad way, not a good way. Your critical multiplier against targets that cannot see you is increased by up to 19%. You must be able to see your target, and the bonus is reduced from its full value at range 3 to 0 at range 10. So you're not going to get the crit multiplier if you're far away, basically. Also, after exiting stealth for any reason, the critical multiplier persists for 3 turns with no range limitation. So you can... it's decent. This is the decent part of stealth, because basically when you come out of stealth, you're going to get a higher critical multiplier for 3 turns. I don't think it's useful enough to take stealth to get this Shadow Strike, but some people disagree. It's hard to get critical multiplier, and it's nice to increase it, but I just don't think it's worth 5 points. Soothing Darkness. You have a special affinity for darkness and shadows. When standing in an unlit grid, the minimum range to your foes for activating stealth or for maintaining it after a shadow dance is reduced by 2. While stealth, your life regeneration is increased by 1.9 based on your cunning, and your stamina regeneration is increased by 1.2. The regeneration effect persists for 3 turns after exiting stealth with 5 times the normal life regeneration rate. Decent. Not great, though. It basically makes stealth better, but also gives you life regeneration and stamina regeneration, but they're too low. The life regeneration gets decent enough, but you're going to want to end fights quickly, so you're really not going to count on life regeneration. Shadow Dance. Your mastery of stealth allows you to vanish from sight at any time. You automatically enter stealth mode, reset its cooldowns, and cause it not to break from unstealthy actions for 2 turns. If you are not already stealth, all enemies in a direct line of sight completely lose track of you. When your Shadow Dance ends, you must make a stealth check against targets in radius 9 or be revealed. Alright, so basically this lets you stay stealth for 2 turns. I think it gets up to 5 turn duration, which is pretty good, right? So you can take full advantage of the critical multiplier and automatic stealth. That's amazing, right? No, because daggers already have an increased critical chance, increased critical chance boost on them as it is, like 20%, I think. And it's very easy to get 100% critical strike chance anyway. So the whole point of this is getting automatic criticals against targets that can't see you, and that's completely overridden by the way you're going to build your class. You want 100% critical strike at all times, not just when you're stealthed or for 3 turns after coming out of it. So the entire point of this tree is just overridden by the way you're going to be building your class. However, that being said, it is nice, especially in the early game with casters, because of how weak rogue-based classes are. They have trouble seeing where you are when you're in stealth. I know that they know you're there, so they try to cast, but it's funny, they'll cast to the left and to the right of you. So, I mean, I have found the defensive benefits of stealth until I engage decent, but if you're smart about your positioning, then you really don't need that anyway. So, yeah, I would not recommend stealth at all. Alright, Cunning and Dirty Fighting. Dirty Fighting. You make a low blow against a sensitive point on the target, dealing 181% unarmed damage. 181% sounds like a lot, but you won't have unarmed mastery, so it'll do crap damage regardless of what kind of glove or whatever you're at. If your attack hits, the target is left reeling and vulnerable, reducing their physical save by 7 and their stun, blind, confusion, and pin immunities to 50% of normal for 4 turns. This effect bypasses saves. This can be useful if you know you're not going to be able to kill your target quickly and you need your stun to hit. This can be useful. It used to be a lot better. It was instant, but whatever. It's fine now. Backstab. Your quick wit gives you a big advantage against disabled targets, increasing your damage by 5% for each disabling effect the target is under to a maximum of 14%. For this purpose, disabling effects are stun, blind, daze, confuse, pin, disarm, cripple, and silence. In addition, for each disabling effect the target is under, your melee attacks have a 1% to a maximum of 4% chance to inflict a new effect on them that they do not already have. Either disarm, cripple, 25% power, or pin for 2 turns. The chance to further disable the target increases with your accuracy. Basically, it's a damage increase based on how many disables you have on them. You are going to get a lot of disables on enemies just from random gloom or whatever, just from attacking based on what effects your weapons already have on them, let alone actually using your abilities to do this. So this can actually be a decent damage increase. The only thing is, it's going to be for your bumps mostly, because you're already going to use Flurry at the start. So your big attacks It's basically going to make your auto attacks more effective. I actually, towards the end, I saved this tree for last, but I will take a few points in backstab. The diminishing returns get worse, obviously, as you get more points, but I think I normally take about 3 points in an endgame. Blinding powder. Throw a cloud of blinding dust in a radius 1 cone. The cone gets bigger as you go. Enemies within will be blinded, as well as having their accuracy reduced by 10 and movement speed decreased by 16% for 3 turns. The chance to inflict these effects increases with your accuracy. The only part of this that is nice is the blind. Doesn't matter how much you reduce their accuracy, they're still going to be accurate enough to hit you. And the movement speed decreased by 16% is not nearly enough. Just instead of using 100% turn to lower their movement speed by a tiny amount, use 1,000% movement speed infusion and run away. So the accuracy part's not useful. Movement speed is completely blown out of the water by an actual movement infusion. But the blind is okay, I guess. This is not very good. I would not take any more than 1 point in it. Twist the knife. Make a painful strike dealing 125% weapon damage that increases the duration up to 1 negative effect on the target by 2 turns. For each negative effect extended this way, the duration of a beneficial effect is reduced by the same amount, possibly canceling it. This is pretty self-explanatory why it's good. It will increase your debuffs and lower their beneficial effects. Recovery can be extremely annoying later on. It's basically, it heals you based on what your max life is, and since enemies get bloated HP later on, really early on too, this can help there. There are a lot of effects you want to get rid of pretty quickly. Rampage is one of them. But this is good. I would actually put points in here before backstab and before dirty fighting as well. But dirty fighting, that's only if you're going to, like, the actual dirty fighting skill, not the dirty fighting skill tree. But anyway, put points in this before you put it in anything else, basically. If you want to use this tree, go for it. If you want to make sure your stuns are hitting with dirty fighting, still, I would put points in this first until the diminishing returns really start to hit it. Cunning and lethality. Alright, lethality. You have this is an awesome tree, by the way. You have learned to find and hit weak spots. All your strikes have a 3.1% greater chance to be critical hits, and your critical hits do 9.4% more damage. Also, when using knives and throwing knives, you now use your cunning instead of your strength for bonus damage. This is really good. It passively increases your crit chance, making it easier to hit 100% crit, and it's not a sustain, it's just a passive. Also, it's giving you critical multiplier, which I said earlier is hard to get, and it just gives it to you all the time. So I actually usually max this out, even though the last 2 points I think get pretty negligible increases. But yeah, really nice. And also using your cunning instead of your strength is really nice as well. Alright, expose weakness. Focus on a single target and perform a probing attack to find flaws in its defenses, striking with your melee weapons for 95% damage. For 4 turns thereafter, your attacks against that target gain 5 effective accuracy for each probing strike that missed, plus 6.0 effective bonus damage and 12% additional weapon resistance penetration for each probing strike that hit. Learning this technique allows you to permanently gain 4 armor penetration with all melee and archery attacks. The bonuses to accuracy and damage increase with your cunning. Alright. You can kind of ignore what this is all saying. You look at the bonuses it gives, but the amount it's giving, the math behind it is weird. I haven't actually gone over it, but people have before me, and it's actually much more than what it's saying. So basically, use expose weakness before you use flurry, and it'll do a lot more damage, or you'll be a lot more accurate. Either way, you're getting the additional weapon resistance penetration, which is nice, but it's deceiving how good this skill is. It's a lot better than it seems just going through the tooltip, and even just the tooltip makes it seem good. So it's one of your best skills. You can overcome high defense or high defenses or physical resistance with it, or you can just get bonus weapon damage on the things that you already can hit, which is nice. All right, Blade Flurry. You're going to be using this all the time once you get to a certain threshold on your build. Become a whirling storm of blades, increasing attack speed by 12% and causing melee attacks to strike an additional adjacent target other than your primary target for 100% weapon damage. This talent is exhausting to use, draining 6 stamina each turn. Alright. It doesn't seem like it gives a huge attack speed increase, but I think it gets up to about 36% once you max it out. The striking an additional target, that's fine. You're going to kill trash quicker, but really you're using it for the speed. Now, 36% additional attack speed for 6 stamina per turn doesn't seem that great, but it's 6 stamina per turn, not per action. So the faster you get, the more efficient this ability is going to be, and you get very, very quick eventually. So the quicker you get, the better this ability is going to be, and you're going to get very fast towards the maxing out of your build. So this is very good, but you might not want to use it early on, is basically how it goes. Snap. Your quick wits allow you to reset the cooldown of up to 2 of your combat talents, cunning or technique of tier 1 or less. This is fine. You can get an extra flurry out of it, but I don't like that it takes a turn. It shouldn't take a turn, and it costs a lot of stamina. It's probably, yeah, it costs the most stamina of anything we've gone over so far, except for blinding speed. And, well, no, that's a sustain cost, not a stamina cost. Alright, going on to Shadow Magic. We're finally getting into the kind of magic portion of the build. Shadow Combat. Channel raw magical energy into your melee attacks. Each blow you land will do an additional 6.3 darkness damage and cost 2 mana. The damage will improve with your spell power. This is amazing, right? No, it's fucking terrible. It's not worth the darkness damage for the cost in mana. Like, it is just too much mana. It's each weapon is gonna, so it does 2 mana for each weapon that attacks. So it's gonna cost you 4 damage for a bump, or with Flurry, it's gonna cost you oh god, what is it? It's 2 mana per attack, and this gives you an extra 3 attacks, so it's gonna be 6 mana. It's gonna be an extra 12 mana just to use Flurry, and you don't have enough mana with your other sustains to use this. Use it early game, turn it off by level probably 12. I would say level 12, turn it off, and then just forget about it. Shadow Cunning. Your preparations give you greater magical capabilities. You gain a bonus to spell power equal to 22% of your cunning. This is okay. I would max your other stuff, like Blinding Speed and Blade Flurry, before going too heavy into this. Once you max your cunning, it's a decent size, but you're not debuffing your targets, and spell power, it's not going to give you a huge increase to the things that actually require spell power to be super useful. Like, it's going to increase Shadow Combat, but as we've already gone over, that's pretty bad. You've got a shield that'll increase, but eventually you shouldn't even be relying on a huge shield anyway. So, I mean, you could argue that you don't need to take this past 1, basically. But, I mean, it's a passive increase to spell power, so I usually take it anyway, even if it's not the smartest thing. Alright, Shadow Feed. You draw energy from the depths of the shadows. While sustained, you regenerate 0.38 mana per turn, and your physical and spell attack speed increases by 3%. Max this out. Either one of these would be useful. The regenerate 0.38 mana per turn basically means you can get rid of your Mana Surge rune, so it opens up a new infusion slot for you. And also on the other side, your physical and spell attack speed increases by 3%. That's more attack speed, makes Blade Flurry more efficient, and it makes you attack a lot more in comparison to the times that your enemies are able to attack. So it's very good, very good. I would max that out. Shadow Step. I would actually max this out before Blade Flurry because it's passive and it's always going to be on. Shadow Step. Step through the shadows to your target, dazing it for 3 turns and hitting it with all your weapons for 186% darkness weapon damage. Dazed targets are significantly impaired, but any damage will free them. To Shadow Step, you need to be able to see the target. Don't use this for damage. Don't use it for anything other than the fact that it is a teleport. Basically use it as a rush, but you don't actually need to worry about targets in your way. It does darkness damage. You're not going to be stacking darkness damage, so it's actually going to be significantly less damage compared to your physical attacks, because you're going to be stacking physical damage and physical damage penetration, not darkness. You don't have nearly enough darkness damaging abilities to even worry about that. Alright. Technique. Combat Veteran, completely ignore that. It's stamina regeneration, hit point regeneration, spell save, and then stamina on kill. You have to unlock it with a category point. It's not worth it at all. And it's also a generic tree, so we're not going to go over it. Cunning Ambush. It's crap, but we'll go over it anyway. Crap in my opinion. Other people like it. Just a second. Don't drink beer while you're trying to make a video. It makes you burp too much. I'm a Coors Light guy. If you were wondering, I know it tastes like skunk, but I like it. Alright. Shadow Leash. For an instant, your weapons turn into a Shadow Leash that tries to grab the target's weapon, disarming it for 2 turns. I mean, no. Why would I want that? It also costs a lot of stamina and a lot of mana for one of the crappiest debuffs, but also it's a low duration debuff, so it's crap. Shadow Ambush. You reach out with shadowy vines toward your target, pulling it to you and silencing it for 2 turns and dazing it for 2 turns. This is actually okay. The range is 7. It's a decent range. Again, it costs too much mana and too much stamina, though. But I could see myself using this for really annoying casters. Once you get next to them, they try to run away from you. That's what Heartseeker and Whirlwind are for. So for the same reason those are decent, this is decent too. It just costs too much to use in my opinion, plus a category point. Ambuscade. You take full control of your own shadow for 4 turns. Your shadow possesses your talents and stats, has 34% life, and deals 49% damage. Minus 30% all resistances, minus 100% light resistance, and plus 100% darkness resistance. Your shadow is permanently stealth, and all melee damage it deals is converted to darkness damage. Your shadow cannot teleport. If you release control early or it leaves your sight for too long, your shadow will dissipate. This could be good for like doing damage to targets, but like you saw me read out its stats. You're already incredibly weak as it is, life-wise, defenses-wise, and this is much weaker than that, and it does half your damage. It's just, I mean, the half your damage part isn't a huge issue because you're going to be doing decent enough damage as it is, but you're a sitting duck while you're using this. It basically makes a shadow clone of you, and you walk around and kill things, but you're sitting in the back. Even if you take care to make sure you're like far, like you can't be far away, but you can be around a corner or something. It's still, it's not, if you're within 4 turns of actually making use of this, which is its duration, it'll go up a little bit, obviously, but let's just say 8 turns. If you're within 8 turns of getting this guy to someone and actually damaging it, the enemies are too close to your actual body for this to be a safe talent to use. So I wouldn't use this. Maybe I would go around the corner just to see what the things are so I don't worry about getting one shot or something. But again, track's better for that, and you have access to track anyway. Shadow Veil. You veil yourself in shadows for 4 turns and let them control you. While veiled, you become immune to status effects and gain 17% all damage reduction. Each turn, you blink to a nearby foe within range 5, hitting it for 146% darkness weapon damage. While this goes on, you cannot be stopped unless you are killed, and you cannot control your character. You see what the problem with this is? There's a few things. Alright, first off, it's doing darkness damage. So, I mean, that's not good. We're a physical damage dealing class. While this goes on, you cannot be stopped unless you are killed. They fucking mean it when they say that. I had a fully built out Shadowblade, exactly how I wanted it, and I had an extra cat point, didn't know what to do with it because my Tinker died. My Tinker Escort died, so I tried this out. I used it. I was level 50. I went to the Ruin Dungeon because I hadn't cleared it out yet, which is a lower level dungeon. It's a hard dungeon, but it's a lower level dungeon. I should have cleared it easily. I used it. Fucking died the second time I used this. It pissed me off so much. But doesn't matter what class you are, surviving for 4 turns without controlling your character is hard enough as it is. Like if you lost control for 4 turns while enemies could damage you on any class, you are likely to be killed. Like it's hard enough to survive for 1 or 2 turns, and this is 4 turns in a row, even with increased all percentage damage reduction. Like it's just not good. You don't ever want to lose control of your character, and to do crappy darkness damage, no, it's terrible. It's useful on trash, that's it, and even then you're more than likely to die, so don't use it. Alright, the bad part is Cunning Ambush. That's your unlockable talent tree that makes Shadowblade special, like different. Nobody else gets that, to my if I recall correctly. Alright, Spell Temporal. Amazing freaking... At level 10, unlock this damn thing. Or if you go Cornac, unlock it at level 1. Yeah, because it's one of the few locked talent trees you can unlock at level 1. Congeal Time. Project a bolt of time distortion, decreasing the target's global speed by 8% and all projectiles it fires by 12% for 7 turns. It could be good. You really don't have the mana to use it, but even if you did, it's so slow. I don't like it, so don't bother with it. 1 point and forget about it. Time Shield. This is what's going to get your Shadowblade from very crappy rogue to differently abled rogue, like differently specialized rogue. Time Shield. This intricate spell instantly, 0% of a turn, erects a time shield around the caster, preventing any incoming damage and sending it forward in time. Once either the maximum damage, 164, is absorbed, or the time runs out 6 turns, the stored damage will return as a temporal restoration field over time, 5 turns. Each turn the restoration field is active, you get healed for 10% of the absorbed damage. Aegis Shielding talent affects the percentage, but you don't have that, so that doesn't matter. While under the effect of Time Shield, all newly applied magical, physical, and mental effects will have their durations reduced by 42%. The shield's max absorption will increase with your spell power. Let's think about it. This is the best spell in the or the best shield in the game. The only other shield that competes with it is Time Shield. There's actually 2 different ones. One is in the stasis tree for the Paradox Mage, and then they're both named the same thing and they do the same things if I remember right. But this is awesome. It'll start, the diminishing returns really hit hard after 3 out of 5, but I would actually take it to 3 or 4 or even 5 out of 5 if you want just the extra shield. It's 0% turn. It costs 28 mana. That's more than decent enough for what it's giving you. This will keep you alive during the tier 2s. Not on its own, really, but it gives you a chance, let's say. Because you're so weak as it is as a Yeek and a Shadowblade, you need this. At level 10, get this tree and then max this out as much as you can. I would actually say maybe even save a couple points at level 8 and 9 just so you can go right to this. Time Prison. Removes the target from the flow of time for 5 turns. In this state, the target can neither act nor be harmed. Time does not pass at all for the target. No talents will cool down, no resources will regain, and so forth. The duration will increase with your spell power. Costs 112 mana. I don't even think you're going to have 112 mana with all your stuff going for a long time, but even so, I'm fairly certain this checks their spell save, and you're not going to have the spell power to actually hit anyone with it. So 1 point in this and forget about it. Essence of Speed. You are going to max this. This is an amazing freaking sustain. But if you can see, well, let's go over it first. Increases the caster's global speed by 9%. Goes up with your spell power, and it actually gets pretty decent eventually. But it's global speed. It's going to work with everything. Moving, attacking, casting, everything. Now the problem being, sustained mana costs 250 mana. This costs a ton of sustain. This is where almost all your mana is going to be going early on. I usually turn this on around level 20. You could probably get it going at level 15 or even 10 if you get one of those awesome 100 mana items, but don't count on it. What you want is to be able to cast this and still have about 100 mana left over. So, eventually through leveling, you will have that on its own, but don't count on getting any items to make it easier. So this is your ultimate goal here, is to keep Essence of Speed up with Blade Flurry up and Blinding Speed. Now they all take different, these two take stamina and this takes mana, so it's not a big deal, but you need to have enough mana to cast Time Shield at least twice. I know it has an 18 cooldown, but you still need to be able to cast it twice. Eventually, though, your mana, it's fine to use this and still have mana left over, because you really don't use mana for a lot of things, except for the ambush tree, which you're not going to be using. So it's actually not as bad as it sounds. The 250 mana sustain cost is actually much worse for like a time mage or an arc mage than it is for you. Alright, now we're going into the Yeek racials. Dominant Will shatters the mind of your victim, giving you full control over its actions for 6 turns. When the effect ends, you pull out your mind and the victim's body collapses dead. This effect does not work on rares, bosses, or undeads. The duration will increase with your willpower. It seems to not work all that often, maybe 50%, but excuse me, it takes 0% of a turn, and it gives you a decent pet. A trash pet is basically what you're going to be using this on. You can use it on something like, for the same reason that Faint is decent, this is decent too. You get trapped in a corridor, right? You can Dominant Will one of the guys, and then you can switch places with him. So this is useful. I would use it on cooldown just to put another body out there for a mage to cast on and not cast on you. So, yeah, decent. I like it. Unity, your mind becomes more attuned to the way and is shielded from outside effects. The way is evil. It's not a good thing. It's basically global mind domination. If you played Embers of Rage, you'll know more about it, but that's basically what the way is. It's not a good thing. And is shielded from outside effects. Increase confusion and silence immunities by 17% and your mental save by +5. Mental save is crap. Silence immunities is okay, but you're not relying on your spells to really do a lot. It would suck if you got silence because you couldn't time shield, but since you should be time shielding on your first turn anyway, you should get it up before they actually silence you. But this is decent enough for the confusion immunity alone, so take a few points on this here and there. I wouldn't max it out though because the diminishing returns hit it too hard. Alright, Quickened. This is the reason we are going Yeeks. Yeeks live fast, think fast, and sacrifice fast for the way. Increase global speed by 4%. I think it gets up to 20%. Now, that's 20%. On top of this is eventually like 36, 40%. So, it's a lot of global speed, these two together. Quickened and Essence of Speed. Plus, they do interact with attack speed as well, which you're going to be getting a lot of. So it's hard to actually say how many extra turns you're getting, but you're getting more. So makes Blade Flurry even more efficient as well. Wayist, take 1 point in this. Reach through the collective psionic gestalt of the Yeeks the way to call for immediate help. Summons up to 3 Yeek Mind Slayers to your side for 6 turns. More bodies. You're very weak HP and defenses wise, so this is good to have. It'll give them something else to concentrate on, and best part is it's 0% turn. You don't lose anything and you get 3 bodies. It's awesome. Alright, with combat training, I would take light armor training at least up to 3, maybe more. The problem is it gives you reduced fatigue, which really doesn't matter to you. 15 defense, increases your defense more, which really doesn't matter to you. And the hardiness is okay, but the problem is enemies hit so hard that you really don't have to have huge armor hardiness to take full advantage of the armor you do have. In addition, when you step adjacent to a visible enemy, you use the juxtaposition to increase your total defense by 8 for 2 turns. That's crap. You might be able to get high enough defense to where it matters, but I wouldn't try. I wouldn't sacrifice any itemization points or skill points for defense. Combat accuracy, you're going to have max dexterity, but I would take at least 2 points, 3 points in it early anyway, just to make sure you're hitting your targets. You're going to want to go Dagger Mastery. You don't necessarily need to go Dagger Mastery. However, I would. The Yeek, how do I want to say this? This is a specialized build. You're not going to be able to use daggers on every class. I would use daggers on this just for the fun value, but you don't have to. So, I don't believe any of these actually require daggers, but the only thing you can't use is Mind Stars. Don't use Mind Stars. You won't be able to use Dual Weapon Mastery. Does even Ambush require daggers? No, it doesn't. This doesn't, I don't believe either. Yeah, so power building wise, weapons mastery and dagger mastery, but I would just go dagger mastery and play around with them. There's some fun artifacts, and later on they actually get decent damage. So, but from a purely min-maxer, I would go weapons mastery and dagger mastery eventually. Disengage. You're going to actually be using take full advantage of the mobility tree since you're light armor, but let's go through it. Jump back up to 3 grids from your target, springing over any creatures in your way. You must disengage in a nearly straight line directly away from your target, which you must be able to see. After moving, you gain 104% increased movement speed for 3 turns, which ends if you take any actions other than movement, and you may reload your ammo, if any. The extra speed and maximum distance you can move are reduced by your fatigue level. Alright. This, you click on a target and you basically kick off of them backwards. So this is actually very good. I use it for the same reason. It's better than Feint in my opinion by a lot. It's better than what is the other one that we went over? Whatever. It's good. Use this 1 or 2 points. It's actually got, you can kick off of an enemy really far away, which is nice. So use this. Evasion, I would make use of this as well. Your quick wit and reflexes allow you to anticipate attacks against you, granting you a 13% chance to evade melee and ranged attacks and 4% increased defenses for 4 turns. The chance to evade and defense bonus increases with your dexterity. It actually gets up to a decent amount of evasion. It's something like 35% increased in evasion with more points in it. This is going to be on, like, you're going to have a little section on your hotbar where you're just going to have a freaking row of buffs. Like Time Shield, Blade Flurry, Blinding Speed, everything. So basically this is going to be on there too, but put it towards the end because it's not as important and you don't want to run out of stamina before you're able to use like Blinding Speed or Blade Flurry. So put this on your row of buffs, but put it towards the end. Tumble. In an extreme feat of agility, you move to a spot you can see within range, bounding around over or through enemies in the way. This talent cannot be used while wearing heavy armor and leaves you exhausted. The exhaustion increases the cost of your activated mobility talents by 68%, stacking, but fades over for 24 turns. This is basically a tiny instant movement ability. You can move anywhere instantly. It's awesome. Make use of it. Either put you in position, jump over an enemy in a corridor. Any way you want to use this, it is a really nice ability. It takes kind of a lot of stamina, but again, it's instant. Trained reactions. This is the reason that makes light armor at least decent. You have trained to be very light on your feet and have conditioned your reflexes to react faster than thought to damage. What? You have trained to be very light on your feet and have conditioned your reflexes to react faster than thought to damage you take. While this talent is active, you instantly react to any direct damage not from status effects that would hit you for at least 26% of your maximum life. That 26% maximum life gets down to pretty reasonable levels, so it's not actually that high when you put more points into it. This requires 3.5 stamina and reduces the damage by 8%. Your reactions are too slow for this if you are wearing heavy armor. The damage reduction improves with your defense. Alright, the damage reduction, maximum life, both with more points. I would take it to 3 out of 5, get to reasonable levels, and also the 3.5 stamina also goes up. So you need to be careful using this that you don't run out of stamina. I wouldn't max it out 5 out of 5 because the diminishing returns just aren't worth the stamina increase in cost. However, towards endgame, I was dismissing with trained reactions up to 200 damage. So this actually gets decent. But again, it costs stamina, so just beware. Alright, heightened reflexes. Let's go over this. A lot of classes get this, but they don't get it unlocked in the beginning. You have to unlock it yourself with a category point. You notice the small things others do not notice, allowing you to see creatures in a 5 radius even outside of light radius. This is not telepathy, however, and it is still limited to line of sight, kind of like infravision. Also, your attention to detail increases stealth detection and invisibility detection by 21, and you gain the ability to detect traps, plus 13 detect power. Traps aren't very dangerous. You might die in the beginning of one if you get stuck, like by a glacial trap or the arcane one, but that's not a big thing. This is not a great ability. I wouldn't take it. Some people say you need to take it for insane, but I don't ever take any kind of detection abilities. And I don't have a problem with stealth people. I just use Perfect Strike if I need to kill them. Device Mastery. Your cunning manipulations allow you to use charms, wands, totems, and torques more efficiently, reducing their cooldown and the power cost of all usable items by 11%. In addition, your knowledge of devices allow you to disarm known traps. 13 disarm power improves with cunning. This is amazing. It works with tinkers. If you use lots of charms, it might be decent even without tinkers, but Tinkers is extremely strong, and that percentage cooldown reduction works with them, so this is amazing. Track. Sense foes around you in a radius of 14 for 4 turns. The radius will increase with your cunning. The radius increase comes more from your cunning than it does from additional points, so you can actually just take 1 or 2 points in this, and it's more than enough. Track is really nice, especially if you're trying to run away from an enemy. You need to make sure that they're not teleporting in front of you or whatever, so decent. This is a good ability. Just don't take a lot of points in it. Danger Sense. You have an enhanced sense of self-preservation, and your keen intuition allows you to sense dangers others miss. Your ability to detect traps is enhanced, plus 6 detect power. All this stuff on traps, and they're not a big deal. I don't get it. Attacks against you have a 1.4% reduced chance to beat critical hits, and damage bonuses attackers gain against you for being unseen are reduced by 10%. There's not enough stealth people for that to be a huge thing. The 1.4% reduced chance for critical hits is awesome, but you have to get here just to use it. So you also gain an additional chance at your normal save -19 to resist detrimental status effects that can be resisted. The problem is your saves have to be of sufficient level just to resist in the first place. So trying again isn't going to be like a huge chance to actually resist it again, but it's also at -19. So I used to think that was good, but I don't think it's actually decent anymore. But this almost entirely for the reduced chance to be critical of chances can be decent. So if you have extra points, go ahead and put it there. Phase Door, you want to take this to 5 immediately with this class. The reason being is because, well, we'll go over it now. Teleports you randomly within a small range of up to 6 grids. At level 4, it allows you to specify which creature to teleport. Awesome. At level 5, it allows you to choose the target area with a radius of 6. If the target area is not in line of sight, there is a chance the spell will partially fail and teleport the target randomly. That is extremely annoying, but it's still better to have this than not. I take it to level 5 so I can target the other target if I want to, but don't count on that working. Mostly because they can have teleport resistance or it can fail for whatever reason, I don't know why. But at level 5, you can choose yourself to teleport anywhere. Normally I like to try to teleport like on the other side of a wall, but like it says in there, it can fail, but you're still going to randomly teleport at that point anyway. So I don't know. It seems like if you try to teleport through an enemy, sometimes it chooses them to teleport instead of you. So I don't know. Just be careful with this. I would use this as your last resort escape, but again, take it to level 5 early on anyway. Teleports you randomly within a large range, 113. At level 4, it allows you to specify which creature to teleport, and at level 5, it allows you to choose the target area, radius 19. Random teleports have a minimum range of 15. That means you're at least going to teleport 15 away. I would take this at 1 and then leave it there. If you have extra points later on, you can take it up to 5 for the same reasons for Phase Door. But it's less reliable than Phase Door because it's more reliable for getting out of the immediate vicinity, but less reliable for, unless you've already cleared the level, it can put you in a worse position than you were already in. So be careful with teleport. This is a last resort after you've already used Phase Door, basically. Displacement Shield. This intricate spell erects a space distortion around the caster that is linked to another distortion placed around a target. Anytime the caster should take damage, there is a 45% chance that it will instead be warped by the shield and hit the designated target. Once the maximum damage, 115, is absorbed, the time runs out, 13 turns, or the target dies, the shield will crumble. The max damage the shield can absorb will increase with your spell power. Alright, this is a crappy amount of shield. It costs a lot of mana. It's only a 50% chance to actually work, and you need a target for it to actually work. So this is just all around bad in my opinion. Yeah, you can shunt some damage onto the target, but again, the amount it's shielding you is based on your hit points and the damage the enemy can do. The damage that the enemy is going to take, even if it worked 100% of the time, is going to be crappy compared to the damage you can do just by hitting him for one turn. So this is bad. Don't ever use it, in my opinion. Probability Travel. Sustained mana cost 200. We are not going to be able to get that going right there is a deal breaker. But anyway, when you hit a solid surface, this spell tears down the laws of probability to make you instantly appear on the other side. Teleports up to 7 grids. After a successful probability travel, you are left unstable, unable to do it again for a number of turns equal to 400% of the number of tiles you blinked through. So 4 times 7, 28 turn cooldown. The range will improve with your spell power. This is crap. 200 sustained mana cost is big enough already. It shouldn't have the cooldown. If it didn't have the cooldown, maybe you could make use of it, like teleporting in and out of walls. But with the cooldown, why would you ever use this over Phase Door, Teleport, or anything else other than this? This is just bad. Don't use it. Alright, Spell Divination. This is actually a decent school, but since it's locked, you're never going to use it. Arcane Eye summons an ethereal magical eye at the designated location that lasts for 13 turns. The eye cannot be seen or attacked by other creatures, and possesses magical vision that allows it to see any creature in a 5 range around it. It does not require light to do so, but it cannot see through walls. Casting the eye does not take a turn. Only one arcane eye can exist at any given time. At level 4, if cast on a creature, it will follow it until it expires or until the creature dies. At level 5, it will place a magical marker on the creature, negating invisibility and stealth effects. Now, this is a good tracking ability. And also, if you've seen my Cultus of Entropy video, I didn't know this, but this can actually be used if you just move it over a target. This can actually summon your Herald on its own. Apparently it stacks with itself, so I mean, it's an exploit probably removed in 1.6, but make use of it if you want. I would. Why not? Keen senses. You focus your senses, getting information from moments in the future. Improve your capacity to see invisible foes by +3, to see through stealth by +2, and to perform a critical spell cast by +1%. This is good if you're trying to max out your spell crit chance. We don't need it as a Shadowblade though, and the sustained mana cost is pretty high anyway, so I would only turn this on even with a pure spellcaster at the end game. Alright, vision. Form a map of your surroundings in your mind in a radius of 6. 22.4 mana cost, not bad. The radius gets actually pretty decent, but the problem is it doesn't show enemies, and it messes with auto explore. If you form a map with your surroundings, auto-explore thinks you've already been there, and it won't go there again unless you get close enough to see an item, and then it'll run in there and get the item. But, yeah, I don't really like these. Same with the Burning Star, the gem you can use to map your surrounding. Alright, Premonition, very awesome. Sustained mana costs 120, kind of a lot, but for what it does, it's actually pretty neat. Echoes of the future flash before your eyes, allowing you to sense some incoming attacks. If the attack is not physical, you will erect a temporary shield that reduces all damage of this type by 12% for 5 turns. This effect can only happen once every 5 turns and happens before the damage is taken. So basically what this means is it's going to give you elemental defenses, anything that's not physical. So it's actually really nice. Basically, lowers magical damage is what I think of it as. It's pretty decent. You can actually take this from an escort, and sometimes I do. I used to do it a lot more than I do now, but I don't like having extra bars, like an extra mana bar. So take that as you will. But I like it. Not going to take it on a Shadowblade, though. Alright, skills. We've gone over that. Category points. What are you going to use for your first category point? Temporal. That's at level 10. At level 20, you're going to do an inscription unless you run into your Tinker already. If you run into your Tinker, you're going to take you're going to go to where you can learn Tinkers and learn that ability. For level 36, after level 20, you're either going to take inscriptions or Tinker if you hadn't gotten Tinker by the time you got to level 20 already. And then with the Wormbile category point, you're going to go with an extra inscription. There's nothing else you really need, so you are free to take inscription slots with your category points, which is really nice, especially because you're going to grab Tinkers. So definitely go Tinkers with this guy. You're guaranteed 1 Tinker escort each game so long as you have Embers of Rage activated for the main campaign. I don't remember exactly what it takes to do that, but you'll know. You'll be getting Tinker escorts already and getting Gunslinger snakes firing at you. So, alright, for Prodigies. Now, it would be nice to take Wind Touch Speed. However, it's going to be really hard to get your 20 talent levels of Equilibrium using talents. What you can do is learn Mindstar Mastery, and I believe that will work. You just do 5-5-5-5 in Mindstar Mastery, which is really hard to get because you're going to have to raise your willpower for it too. But what you can do is you can save up like 30 willpower. This is what I did on my other Shadowblade that died because of ambush. You can save up like 30 points, stat points here, and you can save up 20 generic points. And what you do is in one turn, in one level up screen, as in not leaving, what you do is you max out all your willpower, then you take all of the Mindstar abilities, so 5 out of 5 for each, and then you can actually take this, so long as you have 50 dexterity, of course, and you're going to get what that's going to do is you are attuned with nature, and she helps you in your fight against the arcane forces. You gain 20% permanent global speed, 10% cooldown reduction, and you do not trigger pressure traps. The only reason you're taking this is for the 20% global speed. The 10% cooldown reduction, it's floored, so you'll at least take off 1 turn, no matter how low the cooldown is, but it's not a big deal. We're taking it for the global speed. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can take Windblade. That's decent. It's good for trash. But what else? Flexible combat. The problem with Shadowblade is you're going to be doing mostly single target damage. That's why I like to take Windblade, but I don't always. Flexible combat, it's never going to do huge damage. Each time that you make a melee attack, you have a 60% chance to execute an additional unarmed attack. You're not taking it for the unarmed attack itself. You're taking it for the additional effects you can get off of the gloves themselves. So when you take this, you get access to the brawler stats on gloves. So what you can do is you can get like second wind on hit, you can get gloom on hit, or not gloom on hit, dominate on hit, which basically gives you an extra attack. It'll actually trigger an extra melee attack, which is awesome. But yeah, flexible attack you can make a decent use of, especially with flurry. You could get so many extra attacks. What else? Pain enhancement systems, you might want to max out strength regardless of you're already going to max out dexterity. You're going to max out magic, and you're going to max out cunning. But you can also get pretty high strength as well. You won't be able to max it out, but you can take I Can Carry the World as well. But with pain enhancement systems, you're going to get a decent sized bonus to dexterity, magic, and cunning. So it actually kind of, I don't know, it evens out. It's not an amazing ability, especially with the uptime. It's only got a 30% uptime, but what this does is it adds half of your strength bonus to all your other stats. So pretty good. Not optimal in my opinion though. What else do we want here? You can go Armor of Shadows. You know how to protect yourself with the deepest shadows. As long as you stand on an unlit tile, you gain 30 armor, 50% armor hardiness, and 20% evasion. Anytime you deal darkness damage, you will unlight both the target tile and yours. The armor bonus scales with your constitution. Decent enough, I guess. It's going to give you do have ways of doing darkness damage. This can give you a reason to actually use your darkness sustain, but you really don't want to. It's going to drain your mana too quickly. What else? Arcane Might is an easy one. You have learned to harness your latent arcane powers, channeling them through your weapon. This has the following effect. Equipped weapons are treated as having an additional 50% magic modifier. Your raw physical power is increased by 100% of your raw spell power. Your physical critical chance is increased by 20% of your bonus spell critical chance. You're not going to have a high spell critical chance, but this can get this. If you have some, it can help you get closer to your 100% crit chance with melee attacks. This is good. It increases your damage by a pretty decent amount if you have maxed out magic, which you probably should. Alright, so what would I take on this? What would I take specifically? I would take Arcane Might. Where is it? Arcane Might. And I would probably take that first just because it's such a decent sized damage bonus. But then I would either take Wind Touch Speed, Windblade, or Flexible Combat. So Arcane Might, and then as your first one, and then Flexible Combat, Windblade, or Wind Touch Speed. Personally, I would go Wind Touch Speed, just because I like, when you're playing a Shadowblade, you get so many different ways to increase your speed. If you don't take advantage of that and exploit that, it kind of feels like you're not really taking advantage of the class's core mechanics. So I would take Wind Touch Speed after Arcane Might, but you don't have to. All right, second part, or the last part, itemization. You're going to want to, yeah, we'll accept them. What you're going to want to do is max out your attack speed. There is an ego, on leather armor or light armor that gives you an extra combat speed, spell speed, and mental speed. You're going to want to look for that. Other things, you're going to want to increase your critical strike chance, and after that, your critical multiplier chance. You still need to get stun immune and confusion immune, both of them, because it's going to cut down on the amount of turns you can do your damage. And since you're racing against the clock with Blade Flurry, you really don't want to be disabled. So confusion and stun immunity, definitely. You should be fast enough, and you have enough instant moves that pinning isn't a huge deal. What else? Let's go. Check out. You don't really need to worry about your defenses too much, other than obviously your status immunities. Life is nice. Global speed is nice where you can get it, but it's very hard to find global speed on items. You definitely want life early to make up for the Yeek's awful starting talents, but they have a negative experience modifier, so you're going to level up extremely quickly on the Yeek, to the point where on Insane I hit level 50 before I even leave for the East, before I leave Reknor, basically. What else? Heal mod you don't need to worry about. Light radius I like to get around at least 5, like that's the minimum, you want 5. And then there is a special item specifically for this build, is the only time I would use it. It's called the Fanged Collar. Now, what the Fanged Collar does is when you die, it asks you to make a choice. And if you say yes to this choice, you lose your head. Literally, it's like a parasite that takes over your body. You can only wear the Fanged Collar, which is a crappy necklace, and you can't wear a helmet anymore, which really sucks, like from a min-max perspective for any other class except for the Shadowblade going specifically for global speed. What the Fanged Collar does is it freezes your racial stats where they are. So you need to get 1 in Dominant Will, as many in Unity as you want, 5 out of 5 Quickened, and 1 out of 5 Weighest before you die wearing the Fanged Collar. And then you get a new set of talents. They're all pretty bad, except for one, which gives you more global speed. So, the way I like to do my Shadowblade, or the way I like setting up for it, is you find the Fanged Collar on a different class, throw it in the vault, and then when you have that ready, you can take your Yeek, try to get him to the vault, and then by level 24 you should have all of this maxed out. You can put the Fanged Collar on and then just keep playing until you accidentally die. Don't die on purpose. There's no reason to die on purpose just to activate the Fanged Collar. But when you die, it's a good thing that you died. So you get extra global speed. But yeah, I think that ends what we need for the global speed Shadowblade. But if you have any comments about it, if you think you can make use of a darkness build, let me know. I really don't think you can, and the ambush skill tree it really gave me a bad taste in my mouth the one time I tried it and it killed me. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to leave it off for now. So if you like what you saw, please leave a like or comment, and then let me know if you want to see any specific guides in the future. I'm going to go over the ones I know best first, unless someone asks me otherwise. Archer won't be one of those because I haven't actually played an Archer past level, I think, 15. But yeah, that is the Yeek Shadowblade for Tales of Maj'eyal. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe if you like what you see, and I am out of here. Take it easy.